Welcome to a very special episode of the Orjiako Hour. Now, I would like to apologize for two things. First, I'm not wearing a suit, I know, and Brandon, it's not professional, but you're not here. And second, I'd like to apologize for the content of a post I made a few days ago on Facebook. I support protesters, not rioters. I support police officers, not bullies with badges. Not all cops are bad people, but they most certainly aren't all your friends. And if you think rioters are doing the right thing, ask yourself, is the right thing taking advantage of chaos to breed more chaos? The way to get the change you want is vote, take leadership in your community, change it from the inside out, become a visible agent for change, because mass vigilantes are for comic books, Netflix, and movie theaters. We have to save ourselves. To be honest with you, when I wrote the post, I really believed the words I was writing. But 2 days in quarantine can change a man. The first thing that clued me in that I might be wrong was the post was overwhelmingly liked by my white friends and by my mom. If your mom likes your Facebook post, you should know you probably fucked up. Kidding, I love you, mommy. The thing about the post is, I can see why white people like it. On the surface, it's smart and asks black people to do better, to be better, to comport ourselves the right way. And this really got me thinking, what is the right way to behave? Look at the president of the US and how he behaves.
I don't know what I said.
Why do black people always have to be on their best behavior when he lies on a daily basis and incites hatred and violence? Why do black people always have to be told to act as if they're not hurting? Why are black people always told this is how you should protest and not this? Why should black people not violate the cities that violate their rights on a daily basis? As a first-generation immigrant to the US who moved here at 12 from Nigeria, I like to think I escaped the mental trappings of model immigrant mentality, but I soon realized I embody it. When it comes to police and white people, keep your head down. Stay out of trouble. Don't give them any more reasons to want you to fail. You're already black and an immigrant. Growing up in a predominantly Asian neighborhood, I realized a lot of my Asian immigrant friends had the same mentality. Work hard, keep your head down, don't make noise or trouble, fit in. This in itself isn't bad advice, but when people who look like you are being openly discriminated against, and you play the role of model minority, you aren't doing yourself or other people any favors. See, God forbid that I have kids someday. And if that happens, they will be little black Americans. So while immigrants may not want to put our heads out there to be seen or targeted, we have to understand there are already targets on us. Now, because most of my African American friends were too tired to explain to me why I was in the wrong in my post, I decided to do some digging of my own, and that brings me to the other topic I want to talk about. Violence and riots in America. Now, violence is something this country has a strange relationship with. At times, we're completely desensitized to it. Mass shooting happens, and we all say how terrible is, we go about our days, resigned to the fact that nothing is going to change. And yet, in the wake of a violent protest stemming from a long history of police brutality and racism, I, like many Americans, played the role of the appalled bystander at home. At first, I asked, why would you attack your own city? What good does it do to burn your community to the ground? But if your community has never treated you like you were a part of the club, and worse, allowed the people meant to protect you and your family to falsely imprison and kill you for generations, should we be surprised if at some point you get angry? For people who don't support the rioters, as I didn't just a few days ago, here's why you should. The history of America is a history of violence, and in some ways, violence speaks louder in this country than anything else. Remember the Native Americans that European settlers came here and decimated with smallpox, rape, and murder? Back in those days, there were no riots for rights because society hadn't been created. So let's go forward. The creation of the country. A bunch of white guys did brownface, dumped some tea in Boston Harbor, and then the British came and the colonist Riot became one of the world's most successful revolutions. Fast forward to a Ocoee massacre in Orange County, Florida, 1920. An angry mob came looking for Julius July Perry because he tried to vote twice, and they didn't want blacks voting. So the white people rioted and burned the homes of African Americans and their businesses, killing up to 70 people and making the town all white again. The following year in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in one of the most infamous cases, a young black man was accused of assaulting a young white woman, and as a result, the white people came into Tulsa, looted the black homes, and killed up to 390 African Americans. Fast forward to 2008. I was a freshman at UMass Amherst, where I witnessed my first riot up close because the Patriots lost the Super Bowl to the Giants. No one's motives were called into question because the Patriots lost. We all understood. And yet, when another unarmed, handcuffed black man is killed in 2020 in the street by 4 police officers in broad daylight, and black people have a legitimate reason to riot, and they do so in a way that only damages property without taking any human life, we ask them, why are you doing this? Why are you doing things this way? And we label them thugs, criminals, bad people. Martin Luther King preached nonviolence and he was assassinated. John F. Kennedy tried to champion civil rights, was assassinated. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, was assassinated. Malcolm X preached to his black brothers and sisters to rise up, was assassinated. So what is the right way to help black people? It seems whether you're at the top or the bottom, when you try to help black people in America, you pay a price. And what is the price when black people try to help themselves by venting never-ending frustration at unwarranted police brutality? They're misunderstood and labeled criminals. So if you can't protest peacefully, if you can't effect change at the top without risking your life, if you can't even preach nonviolence, what are black people supposed to do? The answer white supremacy has is the same as Donald Trump. Shut the fuck up because you're nothing but bodies in my way. When white supremacists attacked a peaceful anti-Trump protest in 2017 and killed Heather Heyer with a car, Trump said there were good people on both sides. Yet when black people riot after police officers push peaceful black protesters beyond their breaking point, there's no mention of good people on the black side. Only shoot when they loot. Obviously, the riots are not only because of the death of one black man. It's the deaths of all the black men and women who have died in police custody with no camera records to prove their innocence. It's for the black children who were killed simply for playing cops and robbers. Black people killed going jogging, walking in hoodies, harassed in parks. Don't tell black people not to wear hoodies and pull up their pants if they don't want to be shot. How about recognizing their humanity and just not shooting them? I shouldn't have to be articulate or well-dressed or polite or a model Nigerian American anything. I should just be allowed to be myself. Isn't that what freedom is all about? Violence is one of the few currencies the United States understands. We export it to other countries with our weapons and in our films, and we ignore it when it doesn't affect us personally. We may not like the violence or the riots we're seeing, but you should support and understand that they didn't come from nowhere. Black people and their allies are currently saying, look what happens when you ignore the violence around us, the discrimination and the racism. Rage doesn't just dissipate into nothing. Like a dream deferred, it festers like a sore. In some ways, I still believe that infiltration of the white man system is the only way for true black integration into the system. However, I no longer doubt riots are a necessary part of the resistance toolkit, because until minorities are no longer told how we have to act, dress, speak, protest, or be killed to be acceptable to white people, we will never truly be free in the land of the free and the home of the brave. So I challenge us all to be braver and accept the violence around us as a part of our country's legacy. Instead of ignoring and talking down to the victims, we must stand up and diminish the racism together.
Orjiako hour.
Free Music Archive.
What's up, fellas?
Yeah, Look at that little squirrel day.
We don't want to see targets burning. We want to see the system that sets up for systemic racism burnt to the ground.